Chapter 1. Is it a trade? I woke up feeling very thirsty. I'm always thirsty when I wake up, so there was nothing different there. No hint at all that this would be a day to remember. I climbed out through the cleft, high in the trunk of my old gumballa tree, and gazed down upon the white, frosty ground far below. The sun wouldn't rise fully for almost an hour, and the stars were still visible. I knew all 5,000 of them by name. But Cougus, the dog star, was my favorite. It was red, a bloodshot eye peering through the black velvet curtain that the Lord of Night casts over the sky. I had been asleep for almost 3 months. I always sleep through that time, the darkest, coldest part of winter, which we call Shudru. Now I was awake and thirsty. It was too close to dawn for taking blood from the humans in my Heisda, the ones I farmed. My next preference would be to hunt, but nothing would be about yet. There was nothing to satisfy my thirst, yet there was another way. I could always go and intimidate old Rowler and force him to trade. I squeezed back into the tree and slipped my 2 sharpest blades into the scabbards on my chest. Then I pulled on my long, thick black overcoat, which has 13 buttons made of best quality bone. The coat comes down as far as my brown leather boots, and the sleeves are long enough to cover my hairy arms. I'm hairy all over. And there's something else I should mention, something that makes me different from you. I have a tail. Don't laugh. Don't pull a face or shake your head. Be sensible and feel sorry for yourself because you don't have one. You see, mine's a long, powerful tail that's better than an extra arm. One more thing. My name is Slither, and before my tail is finished, you'll find out why. Finally, I laced up my boots and squeezed back through the cleft and onto the branch. Then I stepped out into space. I counted to 2 before flicking up my slithery tail. It coiled and tightened. The skin rasped against the lowest branch, breaking off shards of bark that fell like dark flakes of snow. I hung there by my tail for a few seconds while my keen eyes searched the ground below. There were no tracks to mark the frost. Not that I expected any. My ears are sharp and I awake at the slightest sound. But it's always better to be safe than sorry. I dropped again, landing on the cold, hard ground. Then I began to run, watching the ground speed by in a blur beneath my legs. Within minutes I'd be at old Rowler's farm. I respected old Rowler. I respected him just enough to turn what might have been a cruel taking into a wary trade. He was very brave for a human. Brave enough to live close to my tree when many others had fled. Brave enough even to trade. I strolled along below his wooden boundary fence, but the moment I reached the farmyard flags, I blew myself up to the size that works best with most humans. Not big enough to be too intimidating, but not small enough to give old Rowler ideas. In fact, exactly the same size as the farmer had been before his old bones had started to weaken, his spine to bend. I rapped on the door softly. It was my special rhythmic rap, not loud enough to wake his 3 daughters, but audible enough to bring the farmer huffing and puffing down the stairs. He opened the door no more than the width of his calloused hand. Then he held a candle to the crack so that it lit up my face.
"What is it this time?"